Hi and hello to all you popcorn talkers, and welcome to another episode of Second Way to Kill a Werewolf. My name is Damien, and with me as always is my co-host, Matthias, the Truth Rodriguez. Matthias, how you doing today, man?
That one's okay. I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, not too bad.
All right, that's good. I too am also doing pretty good and not too bad. Hopefully the day is still young, and hopefully good and not too bad will progress to average, and I'm tired. I don't know. Honestly, I'm having an okay day. I think that when things get better, that's always a positive. So here's to hoping. And if your day is not going too great so far while you're listening to this, well, like I just said, here's to hoping. But if this is your first time joining us, let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about what to expect. We are a podcast dedicated to covering all things pop culture, movies, TV shows, and pretty much anything that's streaming that grabs our attention. Throughout the show, we'll bring up some topics, lend our voices to opinions, and hopefully that will lead to engaging with you all in the future on our social media platform on Instagram and TikTok at Second Way to Kill a Werewolf, where we encourage you to share your thoughts and opinions on the many posts that we put up. Also, if you happen to be listening to this on Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review and drop us a comment about the episode. Also, if you happen to be listening to this on YouTube, hit that little thumbs up button, hit like and subscribe, and all the bells and whistles that go along with it, because hell, why not? That being said, we're going to go ahead and start things off. Normally, we start things off with what we've been watching. But unfortunately, one thing that comes with what we've been watching is what I saw in an announcement on Instagram, actually, is where I saw the news. I was going to bed. And I just, yes, I'm guilty of scrolling before bed every now and again. Bad habit, but, it happens. And in that scrolling, I came across the news of the unfortunate passing of Hayden Panettiere. That one caught me completely off guard. I mean, as it should, as it would, as anyone's in Hollywood that we've seen, regardless of whether or not they've been with us for 80 years, 90 years, 100 years. But unfortunately, in this case, she was only with us for 36 years. That's what made this stand out so much. And I immediately just started remembering the things that I had remembered her from most, which for some was probably that show Nashville. I did not watch that show. I primarily remembered her from the movie Remember the Titans, and for her work on that series Heroes, which was a very successful show. I also remember her, and I was reminded of this because, naturally people start posting different things of where they remember her from. And I completely forgot that she came out in this Wendy's commercial a long time ago for chicken nuggets. And she's this is back when Dave Thomas was still in the picture with the promotions. And I saw an old clip of her, and I was like, wow, childhood memory unlocked. I didn't realize that she had done things that early. And I don't know the details. I didn't look further into it. I didn't try to investigate. I didn't try to look for what some do and need to. And I guess curiosity is sometimes always there. I just was devastated with the news of her passing. And there are no words for when you lose someone. So all I can say is, I hate to say this, but it's thoughts and prayers, but on a deep level, seriously, thoughts and prayers with her family and for anybody affected by this tragedy. Matthias, you heard the news. How did this hit you?
I mean, it's one of those things, especially when it comes from somebody so young. It's don't let anyone ever tell you that 36 is ripe old age or anything like that. It's definitely not. I mean, both of us are both pretty much in that sort of age bracket and all that stuff, and that your life isn't really done at that point, and there's still a lot to go forward with and all that stuff. And even with her in as many television shows and films and voice acting credits and all that stuff in between that she's done, I wouldn't have said, that she has, lived a complete life and all that stuff. I mean, and to have it cut down at an age like that of 36, it's just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see and hear. And I mean, she's one of those actresses who started in the industry pretty young and has kind of faced a lot of the issues with the industry when it comes to sort of how they treat child actors at that time. She's definitely had her demons that she's had to you know uh, really like work on and stuff like that. And it's one of those things where you either come out of it and you are able to sort of come to terms with it, or you end up in the grinder, or you know many other sort of things. It's a lot of paths that kind of come out from that. But I always admired a lot of like of her being able to tell her story and being very frank about the very things that were very problematic in the industry, and kind of just being a voice for that, especially to young women who are interested in going into the entertainment business, and saying like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it opens doors for you, but it also could be a place where you are tested mentally and physically and all that stuff there. And she had a lot of strength of telling her end of the story on that. So that's kind of what I really know much about her, is just her being able to talk about that sort of thing. And of course, Heroes was a really cool show that I used to watch, back in the day as well too. Which is like one role that sort of stands out for me. But yeah, it's really sad to hear, and I hope that she's given uh the privacy in her family as well too, the privacy that they kind of deserve at this moment. Obviously, it's very easy to kind of fall into that whole sense of speculation of like what happened and all that stuff, and rumors get generated. But I think what's more important, beyond everything else, is just to respect her for what she did. All of her roles, and the way that she was a voice for people. And I think that's what matters, at least in right now, is what I feel.
Yeah, no, couldn't have said it better myself. So in the comments, feel free to go ahead and share any memories you might have of her, whether it was Scream, something as recent as that, or something as early as that Dave Thomas commercial, The Wendy's. Feel free to go ahead and share any sort of memories that you may have had if you happen to be watching this episode on YouTube. But with that, we're gonna go ahead, and that's gonna bring us to our first little segment here, which is what we've been watching. And I have to say, I saw Spider-Man Brand New Day. I think I'm a Spider-Man fan. More importantly, damn it, I think I'm a Tom Holland fan and Team Zendaya, because, man, this movie, I didn't have a bad outlook on them. Like I wasn't here saying to myself like, oh, I don't want to see anything that they're in, or I don't get the hype. I'm not a hater. Like, much respect to them for doing what they can, making them as much money as they can, and just living their best lives, as it's been said. But other than Euphoria, which Zendaya did an amazing job in that first season or so, and second season probably, but great actress. Haven't watched the third season. To be honest with you, not really interested. Nothing against Zendaya, just, like I said, this goes back to they took too long between seasons. I fell out of it. I don't really want to get back in. So there you go. But other than that, she's come out in Dune, but also kind of limited in what I see her do in that movie. Also, I'm not really a really big Dune fan. I appreciate the movies. They're good, but I'm just not like, oh man, I can't wait for Dune Part 3, Other than those, and the Spider-Man movies themselves, which again, I feel like Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3, you see her there, I guess. I don't know. Maybe Part 3, the most recent one, you probably get a little bit more of an indication of her emotional depth. But this one, I don't know what it was. Something about her performance in this one. I mean, obviously there are a couple in real life too, so that kind of helps to tell as well to sell it. But I mean, I bought it. I 100% bought it. I'm not going to we're not doing spoilers on this discussion, but there's some moments during this movie that she just switches it up, I'll say. And I was impressed. Overall, I was impressed. I was impressed with Tom Holland as well, his performance in this. And the third one was also something that was bringing me around to it. No, and this is Part three has been out for a while, folks. I'm sorry, but Aunt May died in part three, and
What?
you know, I know, right? Um, so having that happened, his response to that was where I was kind of starting to see it as well. But I hadn't really seen that performance that really got me to be like, okay, Tom Holland, I see it, I get it. This movie did that. I don't know if it was because nothing again against I think it's John Watts is the director who's directed the previous three of the Spider-Man. Amazing job. I mean, goes without saying. But I really liked Dustin Daniel Cretton's touch on this, who directed Shang-Chi previously. The score was also something to be noticed that I felt like was different than the previous three. It kind of harkened back a little bit to something, I don't know, fantastical a little bit, kind of, I think is the best way to describe it. It just had this kind of fantastical, almost Tim Burton-ish, but not really kind of touch that just was a refreshing differentiation from the previous three movies. Overall, I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. I mean, I'm ready for Doomsday. I don't know about you, but that's what I've been watching. Matthias, what have you been watching?
Yeah, I haven't seen Brand New Day just yet there. Not that I don't want to. It's just, I don't know. I think I know about it enough, and also that I kind of just know it through sort of like osmosis of like what happens in the film. So I'm like,
Mm,
I got spoiled on it quite a bit already
fair.
by friends and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of like, all right. Well, I'll just wait until it streams or whatever. But anywho, still within the realm of superheroes and such, a little show called Lanterns debuted this Sunday.
Yes, it did.
And in a world where Supergirl didn't do too well, and that kind of is setting the tone for future projects for DC. I was really pulling for this one. Does
Mhm.
it do it for me? I think it does, and I think it's a really
Good.
well done show so far. It
You had me
didn't release.
nervous.
It didn't release. It didn't release all episodes. Of course, it is a thing that's going on a week by week basis. So there's a little bit of a waiting period. But as far as like how the tone is sort of placed in this show, as well as just the dynamic between Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan and as Jon Stewart, it it hits all the right notes, I feel, of like being interesting and not sort of just, you're not taken into a world essentially of like, okay, it's a superhero duo that's trying to solve a murder mystery. I think really what the show is trying to do thus far is like the inverse of that, where it's a murder mystery, but in a world of superheroes, in a world where there are tangible characters that people look up to and that are essentially a permanent fixture into their lives. You know, on very much, unlike our world, essentially, where we don't have superheroes. But the series so far feels very grounded. There are moments of humor and all that stuff, and I think it does, toe the line of just like being, pretty good realized humor, not necessarily, just being quippy just for the sake of, filling the dead air. Um, but no, so far the show, I like it a lot. I'm very interested in how they go with this show in terms of what's the staying power, how can they kind of maintain that murder mystery that's in here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do feel that the first episode, without spoiling anything, is going to be the polarizing point for people in terms of, okay, how is this going to work or whatever, or how is, what's the point of the show essentially there in terms of like Jon Stewart becoming the Green Lantern, also for adopting that role. Um, that's going to be the major question until the end of the series. But so far, I'm hooked. I liked it a lot. Um, I think they have something on their hands here. As long as they can maintain that tone and just make it interesting for the viewer, then I think this is definitely helping them out a little bit in terms of kind of getting them back into the good graces of DC fans around all over the world, I guess you can say. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Ah, man, I'm telling you, you had me nervous there for a minute because you really you didn't really give me an indication when you were like, and I liked it,
Yeah,
basically.
you haven't
I
seen it
didn't
yet, I
know.
assume, Damien, or
I did. I saw it, which is why you
okay.
made me nervous on why because I loved it.
Mm.
I thought it was great. And I was like, I was wondering if you were gonna be like, and I just, wasn't really impressed or something. I thought it was a great series. Overall. It had my attention. It didn't have me asking the questions of how does this connect? Like, no, but it definitely had me asking what comes next. I was
True.
100% really interested in how this is going to continue to take shape. And just it's just I don't know what to say. Like DC is just killing it when it comes to series. I mean, granted, yeah, of course, HBO, like they're when are they ever really going to put out a series that sucks, really? But I mean, you've got, like I said, Creature Commandos, which was amazing, a great series if you haven't seen that. You had the Peacemaker season 1 and season 2, which again, great series, great seasons, and now you've got Lanterns, again, great series, great season, hopefully. But if they could just do that in the cinematic world, and I know it sounds simple for me to say, it's like just make a good movie. How hard can it be? Well,
Yeah.
it turns out pretty difficult. A lot of things need to line up that I'm not going to waste my time trying to even get into the details here, talking about. But overall, the casting was perfect. I had my doubts about Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan. Completely washed away those doubts. Perfect actor for this role for Hal Jordan, especially the type of Hal Jordan that they're having him play. Aaron Pierre, perfect casting. Absolute perfect casting. I look forward to seeing this guy in the future, not just with the DC, but in the future for just his acting career. He's got a good presence about him. I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes of him. Definitely action suited, and we'll see where he goes from there. But for now, I'm happy to see him as Aaron Pierre, or as Aaron Pierre, as playing himself. I'm happy to see him as John Stewart. I think he's the perfect cast for this. And if I had to say, and without giving any spoilers, I'll tell you what my favorite scene was, and then you can go ahead and tell me yours if you have one. My favorite scene was, without a doubt, the interrogation scene, where it just, all I'll say is that all of a sudden there's a turn, and it's just, and it wasn't even, honestly, it wasn't even like, the entire scene itself was great, but this is how good this series was, that one of my favorite scenes didn't even necessarily include the stars. It was the person that they were interrogating, that it just, there was a shift, and it just played out perfectly. And that showed me that if you can have a supporting actor, I mean, if you want to call him that, or just an additional actor or whatever, not necessarily somebody in the background actor, like somebody that actually has lines in a role, but a small part to play, but they still nail it. That shows they can. That tells me they care about the series as a whole. And I'm taken back to that Wayne's World example, because I immediately think of that every time I think of an actor that comes out, maybe had a small part, but still nailed it. And we've talked about this before, where he's, meets that person that's the gas station attendant, and the guy is just like doing horrible with his lines, and then he just like breaks the fourth wall and is like, Wayne's just like, hey, can we stop here? I mean, I know the part's small, guys, but like, we can do better than this, right? Leaves, they put in a new person, and that new person just like kills it in that role. And he's like, he really emotionally touched Wayne, and he starts like, a little tear going down. He's like, thank you. I'm reminded of that, because as funny as that little skit was, it harkens truth for a series. There is no role too small and no role too big. Every role counts, and this show didn't disappoint. Matthias, did you have a favorite scene?
Yeah, I think for me, like, what kind of sets it apart, or at least what kind of gives me an idea as to what the tone of the show is going to be, it's whenever John Stewart meets up with Hal Jordan at the crime scene at the football field, and then he kind of talks about how he wants to handle the scene and all that stuff, to where Hal Jordan very much is like, it's like, I want to take the reins on this, and I want to, kind of do it my way and stuff like that. Where John Stewart's kind of more or less still thinking about, like, oh, we have to respect the chain of command, we have to go by the book and stuff like that, which leads, to a chase, after that scene, to where John Stewart's like, I screwed up with this and all that stuff. And it shows kind of that the dynamic that I hope, we continuously see in this series, to where, like, yeah, it's, they both have their qualities that make them, capable of heroic, efforts, but they're all also flawed as humans. They still have those attributes, to where they're like, they're not perfect beings and all that stuff, which I always like whenever like superhero media goes into that to where it's like, okay, I don't want to see somebody up there who is, 100% good and 100% intelligent and all powerful and all that stuff. I want to see them make mistakes, and I want to see them kind of navigate them, and how those mistakes lead into them solving problems and all that stuff. And you kind of get a little bit of that with both of them, really, when it comes to the chasing after. So, but yeah, I'm impressed so far. It has my attention. Let's just see where it goes. Is the best thing. Let's just see where it goes.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, 100%. From what I understand, I believe this series is going to be like 8 episodes total. I think maybe 10. I don't know. But either way, whether it's 8 or whether it's 10, the critics, because this is a highly audience score, and then there's the critic score. I don't recall exactly. I think it's like 95% for critics. I could be wrong. Is based on, I don't know if it was based on just episode 1, but I know that critics have been allowed to view, if there's 8 episodes, they viewed 7 of them, except for the finale. If there's 10 episodes, then they viewed 9 of them, except for the finale. I don't remember exactly, but that bodes well. That bodes well for this series. So like you said, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. But what is happening next, ladies and gentlemen? Well, if you're a Star Wars fan, what's happening next is D23 happened, and they gave us our first look at a lot of stuff that we're going to jump into a little bit later on the show. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and talk about Star Wars Starfighter, which, if this movie can do the impossible, and by that, I mean make me a fan of Star Wars again, then I think that Sean Levy and Ryan Gosling have something special on their hands. If they can bring this Star Wars hater at this point, no, not really, back into the fray and just be like, all right, I want to see where this goes. I want to see what happens next. Then job well done. And this is supposed to be just that. This is supposed to be the standalone film, takes place 5 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker, and is going to follow Ryan Gosling as I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name because I didn't actually hear it said, but it's Cade Oberon or Oberon. Do you know?
Oberon.
New character, brand new character to the Star Wars franchise, and so far as we can tell, not specifically tied to anyone. That remains to be seen. You never know. They could reveal later on down the line some sort of a note of, I never knew my father.
Oh,
yeah,
please don't.
You know,
please don't go that route.
Some say that he had the fastest, ship in the. We could do it in something. Star Wars fans would probably know. Okay, here's a trivia question. How fast did the Millennium Falcon do the something?
I don't know. 12 parsecs, I think is what it is.
There you go. Right? Okay, so whatever the hell that is. But at one point or another, I knew what that was, and I'm hating. I'm just joking. I was a big Star Wars fan. I really was. Episode 1 through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoop, not so fast.
Damien's a fake fan. He doesn't know which episodes are which. He's a liar. He's a phony.
Yeah, this guy's a phony. No, seriously, right? I'm over here like, which ones were your favorite? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's true though, because I mean, I can I actually name them? Yes, I can, but I'm not going to take that type of bandwidth to do that. The point is I liked all of them except for probably the last one, and I wasn't really too thrilled with the new, 7, 8, 9. To be honest with you, they were okay. The third one was obviously the worst one of them all. They just didn't have a game plan to create these. But that being a conversation that would have taken place during that time frame, this is a new thing. I have hope for this, a new hope. Yes, one might say. Okay, here's my 2 things. Number 1, I really hope that they don't have this connected in any way whatsoever, and this establishes a whole nother legacy that can move forward. Or this is just going to be the standalone film that they're saying that it is, one and done, or it becomes a trilogy all on its own, not connected to anything else whatsoever, and just is its own thing, which probably is a good idea, to be honest. Why try to make this infinity saga type of thing, right off the bat. Maybe just test the water, see how this does, and then move from there and develop a game plan for a larger scope of things. Who knows? I don't know if it was a good idea to only go 5 years ahead into the future. You know, I, maybe they could have gone 6 years. No, maybe they could have gone like, I don't know, at least 50 years or 100 years. 5 years still feels like we're in the previous era because they're probably still figuring out their lives from the emperor's loss, seeing where they go with that and kind of establishing themselves, as a, I don't know, I'm the not republic. I don't even know. I'm going to use the wrong terminology. So I'm just going to say establishing themselves in that world moving forward from the after effects of defeating the emperor for the 97th time. uh, so I don't know if 5 years is enough to really separate itself from the previous era. But I don't know. You saw the news. What is your opinion on this series? Do you have high hopes for it? And what's your opinion on, okay, how about this? Do you have hopes for this? And also, what's your opinion on the 5 year difference?
So I think for me with this, I have hope for it just because of at least how Sean Levy has been kind of explaining it. Is that yeah, it is a little bit more of an intimate story about like a rogue character that is essentially going to be involved in some sort of adventure along the galaxy, which I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it being very much just like you have a guy and he has a cool car or horse or thing that gets him to places. He's very much a cowboy type archetype character. And he goes out and he does things and he gets into trouble and stuff happens. I like that stuff where it's a very simplified story. If this can be that simple of a story without having to involve, Rey Skywalker or the Emperor or, any of that old Star Wars stuff, it's like, I'm fine. That's I'll be happy with that. What makes me worry is that because it's only 5 years from Rise of Skywalker, they're just gonna be too tempted to connect it somehow. I just feel that there's gonna be that little thing of like, I don't know. I don't want to see anybody anybody reprise their roles from that newer trilogy. I think that's it. Like it's had it. I think what it is now is that it should Star Wars as an entire franchise and idea and all that stuff should just look forward into the future, whether it's 5 years after, 50, 100, 200, a million. I don't know. But it needs to start telling stories that are separated away from like anything about, Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader or Han Solo or anything like that at all. All that needs to be set aside. It's like you have a good universe. You have a it's a universe. Tell me a different story that's not related to stuff that's happening pretty much at that center of the universe. Let's go to the outer rim. Let's go to other places that we haven't seen. You can have like, the same planets involved. You can have the same, amount of like species or whatever that are out there in this universe. Like that's fine, but it's just give me newer stories and take risk. Don't be so focused on having to sort of name drop, a Jedi or a Sith Lord or somebody from the Empire. It's like we can get past that. I think we've done that to death. So if this movie can somehow get away from that and tell a really nice, fun story, like how pretty much the old Star Wars films were like essentially there, to where it was new and exciting, then cool. Just do that. I will 100%, buy back in if that's the plan for the future of Star Wars, but we'll see. That's going to be the big thing is we'll see. I do think though, Ryan Gosling though, I think a good choice for a character. I do like him as like a protagonist in a lot of his movies. So I think he's a good choice at least for possibly being like the leader of like this new wave of Star Wars stuff, but we'll see how that
Oh.
goes.
So you're going to go that far. So do you think that he's going to be the person to lead a new Star Wars franchise?
Probably. I'm thinking. I think there's a sense of there is going to be, especially with the same way that Marvel's kind of going, is that there is this urgency to just start anew with someone that people are loving right now. I mean, ever since Project Hail Mary came out, I mean, people
Hmm.
just can't get enough of Ryan Gosling. I mean, I think overall as an actor, especially within a decade or so past of like all of his like filmography, I think he has like the most like good good relation and good merit with like their with the audience. I think thus far, I don't think he's really made anything in the past that's like been bad or whatever, or like just like the worst movie you've ever seen. I think he's had a pretty good sort of like draw for the most part. So I think he's a safe bet for if they want people to really like, you know, go see his movies.
Yeah, I mean, he's a highly recognizable star for sure and has a lot of mainstream appeal. But also, he did a movie called, what was it? The Nice Guys. Great movie, I'm told. I didn't see it. But nonetheless, the point is, I didn't see it. I need to go back and see it because I've heard that was actually pretty good. He did another movie called The Fall Guy. Great movie. I did see that one. It was a great movie. Not a lot of people went to go see it. It's weird because he has this mainstream appeal, like I said, very, very recognizable. But I don't know if it's the promoting or the marketing, whatever, that whatever reason the movie just, doesn't really turn out as a big hit. I don't know if they were flops, to be honest with you, but not on par with what you would think in terms of the celebrity that is attached to him. Because you're right, he is a very recognizable and a great actor. I'm really glad that Project Hail Mary turned out as successful as it did, because he is an actor that I think deserves that type of recognition and appeal, or
Mm.
that type of recognition. After the success of something like this, and partnering up with Sean Levy for this movie, and them again going forward to do another project in Ghost Rider, which is uh, another good omen, I guess you could say. It's going to be an interesting take on the Star Wars universe, because anybody who knows Star Wars knows how bad the fandom can be and how judgmental they can be and how protective they are of Jar Jar Binks. And because of that, it really makes me wonder, can this director, Sean Levy, come in, leave his mark, but also still stay true to the previous tone and genre or appeal of the previous Star Wars world, I guess, or not canon, but I guess the previous Star Wars films. Should he stay true to that, or does he completely just put something new and original on the table? I don't know, because you have a show like, it's not the movie was Rogue One. To be honest with you, with that movie Rogue One, it was good, but I just fast forward to get to the part with Darth Vader. To be honest, because it was very, very well done. It was a good movie though. You have a series that comes out from Star Wars, called, a series that I don't remember off the top of my head, that I'm sure you do.
What, the Acolyte?
No, no, the good one, the
What,
good
Andor?
series, Andor. um, you have a series like Andor that comes along and is, for most intents and purposes, different from the previous films, episodes 1 through 9, as we've just discussed earlier. It did very, very well. It didn't really appeal to me. And maybe the reason was because I'm part of those general audiences that was just like, you know what? This doesn't feel like Star Wars. Even though Star Wars fans some would probably be like, no, but this is the greatest thing ever, and it's such a great series. And I'm sure it is. I'm not knocking it. I'm sure it was a great series. It just didn't pull me in. I was like, I don't know. This just isn't Star Wars to me. Is that something that Sean Levy has to take into consideration moving forward with this movie with Ryan Gosling?
Yeah.
Is he going to put something out that at the end of it all, if it didn't have the word Star Wars in it, would you even know that it was a Star Wars film? And because of that, are you then forced to have to mention Ray? Yeah, right, that was her name.
Yeah. Ray
Ray
Romano.
Skywalker, Ray Romano. I wanted to do a Ray Romano impression, but it would be horrible. Are you forced to have to mention him or Kylo or her? I'm sorry, or Kylo or anything in the previous movie to just kind of say, "Hey guys, this is Star Wars." I don't know. What do you think?
Here's the thing. I think there's a lot of people clamoring out there, and I feel, yes, you're definitely touching on the whole fact of like how this fandom is pretty toxic at times. But there's also this sort of like faction of them that it's like, we want new stuff, we want new stories. And then when those new stories and new stuff happen, it's just like there's some of them are just like, well, there's no Star Wars and there's no Empire, there's no Darth Vader, and there's no lightsabers.
Yep.
And I'm like, what do you want then? It's like, do you want new stuff or do you just want like your usual things? Like, I
Yep.
100% get it. There's a market for, you know, stuff like the Clone Wars and stuff like what the Mandalorian kind of became really at the end of its series, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we took away what made this show interesting, which was kind of focusing on a Mandalorian character, a bounty hunter, and then made it into a kind of a member berry kind of show where it's like, oh, look, they're bringing in people from the Clone Wars now, and they're bringing this person that, if you read the novels, it's a very big Star Wars character. But it's like, no, it's like you can't, we are seeing that in real time that is not sustainable anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
think what is has to be the path forward, whether people really like it or not. And it's a kind of double-edged sword because then you're going to lose those fans that are like, well, Star Wars is moving away from a place that I don't like anymore. I get that, but it's like, if they're going to make the jump and make the risk of telling new stories and going just outside of like the sort of like that main little bit of universe, I'll watch every damn Star Wars thing that they make in the future. If they just show restraint and they show, hey, we're much more than, your Luke Skywalkers and your Darth Vaders and all that stuff. We're an entire universe with you know, uh an entire library of stories to tell.
Mm,
And that's what I want. But it is going to take somebody to make that leap. And it
for
seems
sure.
like in this case, it's Sean Levy. He's gonna have to make that leap. He's gonna have to make that jump, and he's just going to have to really tailor this film into something that is still recognizable to the brand, but fresh. And it's hard. It's extremely hard to do. He has a Herculean task before him, but if he can pull it off, and if he can essentially do something new with Star Wars, which is sounds like almost an impossible feat, I'll be there. I'll watch it. So
Let me ask you this.
no.
And this okay. Well, moving on. Let me ask you this. Matthias, the truth Rodriguez. Um, do we need Jedi or Sith mentioned in the future of the Star Wars franchise for this next saga? Can you do Star Wars for, say, the next, I don't know, 10 years and have no mention of Jedi? Or do you think that, nope, you're going to do Star Wars? We need Jedi or Sith. That's it. You need those, at least those.
Mm.
You don't need the Skywalkers. You don't need Darth Vader or anybody else, but you need Sith and Jedi at one point or another. What do you think about that?
I think yes, because I mean there's no sense, especially from the end of Rise of Skywalker, to where those components of Star Wars go away. It very much seems as if that is pretty much an eternal plot point for this universe, where it always has to be, there always has to be Siths, there's always has to be Jedis, in the same way that in any good story there always has to be bad guys, there always has to be good guys.
Mm,
And I think you can have that. You can still, but it's just like, don't get so obsessive over that being in every single project. Like, if you want to focus on what's the continuation of, the Sith versus the Jedi dynamic, sure, let's make a movie about that. I won't mind there being a movie that focuses on that sort of dynamic, but just break it up a little bit. And also realize that if you're going to sort of say that this is an internal sort of like war between these two factions, you got to give me a good story as to why that's still happening. Because I feel like eventually that dries up. The whole like
mm.
the whole sense of like, oh, well, there's a Sith and all that stuff that was taught by this other Sith, a whole bunch of, years ago. And there's this other Jedi that was taught by another Jedi a whole bunch of years ago, and they got to fight. It's like, okay, we've already had 9 movies and a couple of TV series and a couple of novels and a couple of comic books and a couple of video games and a couple of animated series that have
And a
delved
couple of
into that.
coloring books.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
it's like there's yeah, but but it's been done to death. It's like I don't want to say that, hey, just get rid of that stuff, but just show restraint and just kind of see what else is out there. It's like, give us a story about like one of like the many crime families that's in the Outer Rim and stuff like that. Give me a story about, somebody that fought, in the latest wars or whatever in Rise of Skywalker, or in the newer trilogy, that is having to come to terms, with what he or she has done and all stuff in that time during the war, and what they're doing, now into the future, and into breaking that cycle. It's like, you can be clever with stories. You just have to hire the right people. Disney just needs to hire the right people to make up those stories. And it's a, multi-billion-dollar company. You're going to tell me that they can't, find some writers out there to create a whole new universe, or to create new stories in this universe? Like, come on. Like, there's a well to draw from. It's just, you got to stop thinking that your entire brand is just, Yoda and Chewbacca and all those characters. Like, let's evolve. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah,
But,
no,
that's my rant. Thank you for coming to my TED
no.
Talk.
Yeah, no, right. No, but that was good. That was very well put. It's funny too, because when you were talking about like the fans that want something new, but then they just, like, what's this? I don't want this. This isn't what I ordered. I just automatically was thinking of somebody going to a restaurant and just being like, I'm going to try something different today. Let's see what looks good on the menu. Oh, look at this. Le Petit Cordon Bleu. We've got the salmon that just looks succulent and with some asparagus. And thank you. Yes, I would like the chicken fingers of the of the fried variety, with a side of no. Don't want corn on the cob. I just want fries. Same old, same old. That's what you end up wanting, because that's what you end up feeling comfortable with, and you don't really branch out. But we'll see what happens with that. We kind of took quite a bit of time on that topic, more than I wanted to, but it was interesting because I was motivated by it as well. So I think all in all, good conversation. The next topic that we have for you lined up is still revolving around D23, folks, because obviously there were a lot of announcements during this time, one of which was animated related. Say that 10 times fast. It turns out Disney does animation fairly well. They're in the game of animating stuff. And with these announcements, it was a clear indication that they are aiming to play it safe with franchise continuation and franchise expansions, but also go towards original films and additional, and maybe an attempt to establish new franchises, which honestly are much needed, because as successful as Zootopia 2 was, and it was very successful, as Toy Story 5 was, and again, it was successful, and Inside Out 2, you kind of get picked up, you think you know where I'm going with this, not successful, no, very successful. You can ride that wave for, I mean, I would say only so long, but eventually people do exactly what you were saying, and they start wanting new properties. Because at one point or another, Inside Out was something completely new. Mm-hmm. At one point or another, Zootopia was something completely new. They tested the waters, and the people responded, and they put all of their efforts into putting together a great casting, a great story, and moved it forward. And just like that, they were able to invest in the future. With this, we got some pretty good announcements for some huge properties. I mean, it's safe to say that Disney's going to make, I don't know, billions and billions of dollars between now and 2029, because we got announcements such as the one that is actually my favorite that I'm looking forward to, because I really like The Incredibles. We got our announcement of Incredibles Part 3, with Pixar providing more details about it. slating it for a June 16th, 2028 release. This one's going to be involve the family, but it's going to be more centered around the kids this time around, trying to basically navigate their way through a world in which, well, superheroes are once again legal, which kind of sounds funny to say, but those of you that are familiar with the series know what I'm talking about. I like that it's going to be the story's going to be revolving more around the kids. However, the one thing that I was not a fan of was that they didn't age them up. They
Yeah,
kept
that's
them the
weird.
same age. Yeah, like it worked for The Simpsons for, I don't know, 40 years, but you got to see them grow. I mean, at least be like closer to teenagers, I guess, or something. But maybe they're testing the waters to see how a story revolving around them goes, and then maybe they go into the teenage years, and then hell, maybe we see them. This is a long-term plan, and then you see them eventually with their spouses, and the cycle begins all over again, which I would follow. They make really good movies and great stories. Additional characters like Edna as well. So I'm excited about this because like I said, I'm a fan of The Incredibles as a whole, and a lot of people say that Incredibles 1 was probably the best Fantastic Four movie ever made. Because it was, honestly, to a certain degree. It was a great movie. It was a great film. It's one that I appreciate, and I often throw back on the old streaming device. But we're gonna name a few of the other releases as well. But Matthias, what's your news on Incredibles?
Yeah, I
Wait,
mean,
what's your news? What's your opinion on Incredibles? I
my
don't know what
news?
I
Yeah,
said.
what's my news?
What's your news?
It's like someone told me that movie's coming out in some point in time. I wonder who that was.
This guy.
But I mean, Incredibles 3, I feel like, what's going to happen, definitely happened a lot sooner than, if you look at the timeline of when the first film came out and then when the second movie came out, which is, I think, like a decade or so.
Wow.
But now with, 2 and then leading on to 3, safe bet, I feel. People love the Incredibles. I do, especially there. And you're totally right that the first one is basically like the best Fantastic Four adaptation really in ever. But yeah, I'm just weirded out by the fact they didn't age them up, because I felt that was a natural course of the next part of the story, where it's like, okay, let's have them navigate their lives as either young adults or adults, and see how they sort of kind of navigate their new superhero legality essentially there. And who knows, maybe their parents are still there, like in the picture and all that stuff, but just not as prominent as the last two films. Again, it's just it's a weird dynamic that they're just having them still at that age, but someone made that decision, and that there's that. So yeah, I feel like that one's gonna do well. I don't think that one's gonna be a flop.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to do. I think it'll be very successful. But along with Incredibles 3, we have a slew of really huge announcements for these animated films that are going to be coming out. The next one, actually, you know what? I'm going to name them all, and then for the sake of time, and then we'll kind of jump in a little bit. But we've got, you know what? I don't want to lead with the with the main one here. So we've got one called Ghost Market, which is one of the. It's going to be an animated. Well, obviously an animated. It's going to be scheduled for 2028. That's going to be coming out. Original story. Let's see. We've got. I didn't hear this actually said. So, wait, is it Gato or
Yeah, it's just
Gato? It's Gato.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. I didn't know. I didn't even.
I mean, I don't know how you say, because the movie is set in Venice and all that stuff there, so I don't know if like the Italians say it differently.
Oh, okay. See, you did more work than I did. I got the name, and that was it. I didn't even know that. Okay, that's good to know. You're right. Then it probably is Gato, potentially. Like I speak fluent Italian, right? We've got another one called Hexed, and these that I've named are the original features that are going to be moving forward. We'll jump into those a little bit, maybe on another episode. But the meat and potatoes of these announcements, well, actually, there was another one called Clay as well, as far as original features. Oh, hell. Okay, how many notes did I take? All right, also, we've also got the Bluey movie that's going to be coming out. We've got the new Simpsons movie, speaking of the devils, that's going to be coming out. We've got Ice Age Boiling Point as well. And Okay, yeah, that was it for the other ones. But the major announcements were going to be Zootopia 3, which huge fan of that. I love Jason Bateman in that. The way him and I forgot the name who plays the rabbit, but their chemistry, it just, I don't know, it's perfect. I love those movies. Part 1 and 2 were great. Looking forward to part 3. You've also got, it's hard to say which one's going to be the bigger. Well, okay, Frozen 3 has got to be the bigger one.
Oh
Frozen
yeah,
3 is going to make all the money in the world.
too bad and easy.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if it's going to outdo what is it, Inside Out 2, and yeah, what am I wondering for? No, it's going to. There's no way in hell it doesn't. This movie, I'm curious to see what kind of records it smashes. It's scheduled for November 24th, 2027, so that's, yeah, well, it's still a ways from now, but I'm sure it's going to make, like I said, all the money in the world. The other one, though, that I'm wondering could have potential, and I am kind of surprised that they announced this as a sequel, because, I mean, I guess you could always say, like, well, where do you go with that? Well, I'm just a general audience member. It's not like I'm the writer for this type of thing. So where they go with it is dependent on people that are much more talented than myself to come up with these stories, compelling stories. Coco 2. I need to go back and watch part 1. It was good. It was a good movie. I know that it's definitely near and dear to a lot of people in their hearts, and I liked it. It didn't really grab my attention. Like, it didn't really pull me in to just be like, I don't know, maybe I just need to see it again or something with fresh eyes. But we saw some glimpses. We saw some images. We get to see him now. Miguel is now a teenager, apparently, and he is going to be revisiting the world of the dead. Ernesto de la Cruz is going to be voiced again by Benjamin Bratt, and he will be making a return here. I don't know. I need to go back and revisit this. I think that it was successful enough to merit a part 2. I say that, and I don't know what the numbers were, but I'm pretty sure they did well if they're going to make a part 2. I don't know. It's like I want to be excited about this, but I'm not. But I'm also
not
interested. You're not? Okay, you're not either. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we should have gone with Frozen 3. You know what? No, I'm. Would I be more interested in Coco 2 or Frozen 3? I didn't like Frozen 2. I thought it was not a good film. Part 1 was good. It was cute. If I had to choose which movie to go see, I would choose Coco 2. Full disclosure. But I don't know. Take that for what it's worth. You were saying, go on, Matthias.
So I think what it is that I like the idea of the movie, like of there being a continuation of the story of Coco and all that stuff, because I do love that movie a lot. I think it's honestly one of my favorite Disney Pixar movies. I feel it's, for me personally. I mean, who else can say? My sister too. I guess, but she's not here. but it's just the story. I feel like the first one really just nailed it in terms of giving you a full narrative that really just put a pin at the end, because you essentially got, like, he got what he wanted. He got his grandfather's guitar and all that stuff. He's allowed to play music again at the house, with his family. That's it. Like, there's your story. Your story's complete. You're going to tell me now that there's something else that's going to happen, and that Ernesto de la Cruz is going to be back in some sort of capacity, which I feel this is what's going to happen. It's going to piss me off, is that they established him so much as a villain in the first film. He's going to be a villain in the first half of the second film, and then he's going to have some sort of change of heart, or he's going to be he'll sacrifice himself for whatever the end of the third act is, and he'll be like a good guy again or something like that. I feel like that's going to happen, and that's going to make me angry. But I hope it doesn't. But I really don't care too much about Frozen 3. Like, it's cool that's coming out, and I know it's going to make, just an obscene amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I'll be there in the audience.
Same.
Unless somehow, like, Rotten Tomatoes gives it like a perfect 100 or something like that, which, I mean, it could happen. And then I'm just going to have to watch it just to see what the hell they were talking about. So
it's true.
But hey, sequels.
Yeah, a sequel is that's what they're banking on.
Yeah,
they're definitely putting their stock in that, and honestly, rightfully so. I mean, with this lineup, Zootopia 3, Coco 2, and Frozen 3, I mean, that's like $1, 2, 3 billion right off the bat, right there. Like that's guaranteed money. You just print it at this point. So I'm looking forward to it. I really should go back and watch Coco again. I liked it. I remember liking it, walking away from it and liking it, but maybe I need to see it again just to really, I don't know, feel that connection again to the story to really get a better understanding of what exactly happened in that movie. Like I understand the basis of it, but
Mm-hmm.
I know, there's that kind of bait and switch type of thing. Well, not bait and switch, but the old switcheroo type of thing. And those of you that have seen the movie know what I'm talking about, which was a pleasant surprise, like as far as for the story, the twist, as it were. So overall, I'm looking forward to a Coco 2. But that said, we finally got a look at the Doomsday trailer. And some of you all might remember that we kind of discussed that trailer. Well, the version that looked like it was recorded with someone's 1994 camcorder that they snuck into a movie theater, that to the point where you're like, is this real? But I knew it was because there were people that were at the event that were describing what I was watching on the trailer. So yeah, but this one gave us a better look. And overall, it was a good trailer. I'm impressed. I'm looking forward to it, but I want more. It's not enough. I want to see how this story comes together, which you know what? They're doing their job. They're getting me to ask questions because I didn't include it in the segment of what we've watched or what we've been watching, but I recently rewatched all of Loki season 1 and 2 because Kevin Feige told me to because it was suggested. Now, because I wanted to get a better understanding of the way that they were presenting the multiverse just to understand this. And that right there is a good sign because that right there tells you that I care about, basically, like we always say with Marvel fans, how does this connect? You ask that question, and they got me to ask myself that question again. So kudos to them for that, because based off of the way Loki season 2 ends, Kang the Conqueror or Kang variants are still within the universe. They still exist. Loki season 2 didn't end with, Kang is done, it's over, whatever. It basically ended with them knowing that there are Kang variants still out there. And they're just basically monitoring for the most part. I'm not going to get into the meat and potatoes of it because I don't want to carry the show on for 2 hours here. But essentially, the way Loki season 2 ends, it made me wonder how Doomsday, Doctor Doom, is going to approach Loki in this. What role does Loki have moving forward, especially after the events of how season 2 ended? The trailer definitely does a really good job of showcasing the arrival of a new big bad in Doctor Doom, where Thor comes out and just says, you'll be begging for hell long before I grant it. And then Doctor Doom comes back and just fires back with a great line saying, hell answers to me because I am Doom. And at that point, I couldn't tell in the first version of the trailer, but at that point, he is bringing rise to very familiar looking Sentinels for those fans of the X-Men animated series, which I really liked because those were the Sentinels that I remembered. So to see them playing a part in this was, to me, indicative that the X-Men, which we'll get to in the next story, are not just going to be a special appearance type of thing. They're going to be a key factor in this film, all the universes for that matter. It just really made me start to wonder, how are some of these characters going to interact with each other? Whereas in the first Avengers team up, you already started to see Tony Stark and Chris Hemsworth, or Tony Stark and Thor and Tony Stark, Thor, Loki, Incredible Hulk, anyways, how they were all going to come together and what kind of dialogue and interactions were they going to have, especially with like Doctor Strange when he met Iron Man. both of them with the egos. It made me wonder what type of interaction is that going to be, and it didn't disappoint. The same thing made me wonder, how is, I don't know, a character from the how is Cyclops, James Marsden's Cyclops, going to interact with Shang-Chi? How does Spider-Man interact with, I was going to say Storm, but I'm literally picking the one person that wasn't announced in this, with Beast, I guess, or I don't know, or Professor X. It got me wondering about what types of interactions they're going to have. So the trailer itself is doing its job. It is hyping up my anticipation for this film. What about you, though?
No, I think out of all the trailers we've seen, even like the little like teaser ones, in the past as well too, where it focused on like one single hero or like one group and stuff like that. I think this one gets our best understanding of like the motivations of Doom and sort of like, I guess, the major plot point of the film as well too, where Susan is just saying like, Victor used to be this, was the smartest guy in the room, and he used to be so different, but now he's broken ever since the loss of his family and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the line that Victor says as well too, of like how they all been living stolen lives and they must give them back. Like, I am very captivated by those two aspects or those two lines of dialogue within this trailer, because it's like, that's telling a story. That's revealing that there's a story that we haven't really seen too much, really, or really at all, honestly, in any of the previous films leading up to this, because there just hasn't been any sense of like, where's Doom, within the timeline of all these other previous films and all that stuff, and how are you going to set up, a very powerful supervillain like Doom when you really haven't seen anything of him like at all, in the previous films. And this film has a major challenge of like within the 2 to 3 hours that it has to tell that story of like, why is Victor Von Doom like this in this film, and why is he a force to be reckoned with? I mean, we're seeing a little bit in the trailer there with him, stopping Thor's attacks and then raising those sentinels, but I want more of that. I want to see what makes him so captivating and what makes him so powerful and a force to be reckoned with in this movie. And I hope they really lean heavily onto like how not only is he, technologically superior to all the heroes, but also he has such a helm of like, he has such a heavy understanding of like, magic and all that stuff as well too, that also
Mm-hmm.
makes him like a superior, force to be reckoned with as well too. So I want to see all those elements in this film kind of come into play, to where people are like, oh man, that's why this guy was chosen to be the supervillain for the essentially the end of this saga or whatever. So I'm excited for it. This definitely has kind of sort of made me ask questions like you in terms of what this is all about and like how this is going to be important. And same thing with the, how do the mutants, kind of fit into this as well too. I think that's going to be another thing, because yeah, I don't think it's just a one and done kind of thing that's going to happen with them. So, but yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I really want to see, because my favorite villain of all time is Magneto, in animated form, in cinematic form, comic form. Magneto's just always been my favorite villain, primarily because of the the storytelling done in X-Men, the animated series. I always just loved how complex the character could be, and how passionate he was defending something and fighting for mutant rights, even if sometimes, it was like by any means necessary type of deal to protect those that he loved and cared about. So it was a very dynamic character where you sympathize, but then at the same time, you have a character like Professor X that comes along and it's like, Magnus, you can't do this. Like there are, ethical points that we have to abide by. And it's like, well, why should I? And he just embodies that human in a way. I mean, which is funny because he establishes himself as, we're not human, we are better than them and whatnot. But at the same time, reacts with very human reactions. Like, you can't do this, Magnus. Well, why can't I, Charles? Tell me why. And anger. So I always appreciated his character, and also his powers were awesome. How many times have you been in traffic and just been like pretending like you could just do that? That would be amazing. But it is what it is, and we can't do that because we live in a boring world. But I've always loved the story, the way that they take his character, and I want to see how he interacts with someone like Doctor Doom. I want to see how Professor Charles reacts to somebody like Doctor Doom. Can he get into his mind and question, like, what is your motivation? Why are you doing this? And really, we've seen Professor X be able to talk people down off the ledge. Obviously, he's not going to be able to do that with Doom, but I want to see what that looks like. Somebody like the Scarlet Witch, does she come back? Because she's unbelievably powered up as well. Does she make a return? What effect does she have on Doctor Doom? We saw that she pretty much could have taken out Thanos, really, at one point. Could she potentially, I'm going to guess no, but do the same to Doctor Doom at one point or another? How powered up is going to be Captain Marvel versus this threat? The same way that we saw Hulk get defeated by Thanos, are we going to see something like that early on with Doctor Doom? And I don't think it'll be enough to take out Kang the Conqueror, because essentially he's not a threat based on how Loki season 2 ended. That it was basically to the point where they were allowing the timelines to branch. Essentially, with Loki was that they were pruning the timeline to prevent a multiversal war that would have been led by Kang the Conqueror. That's what He Who Remains was at the end of it. Without that, and how that ended with him gone, the timelines were just going to continue to expand unchecked. And to the point where once the TVA people were realized what they were doing, which was just taking away people's lives, they were like, we can't do this anymore. So by not doing that, you have the timelines expanding at an exponential rate. And because of that, it couldn't really be sustainable, which is where Loki's sacrifice comes into all of this, by him taking grip of all the timelines and holding it together so that they could expand and people could continue to exist in their universes and make choices that would lead to this instead of that type of deal. Versus, I made a choice that led to this, and this decision could give rise to Kang the Conqueror, so you must be pruned. That's essentially what that was. So it makes me wonder what type of role he's going to have in all of this. I don't know. The incursions, how does that take effect? How does a battle world begin to happen? So a lot of questions that I'm looking forward to being answered. Speaking of X-Men, this is going to be our last topic of the day, folks. Major casting announcements, most of which we already knew, in terms of Emma Frost being cast to be played by Samara Weaving. We had Kit Connor, who got cast to play Cyclops, and we had, for those of you that watched, and I said the last episode, all bets are off now, Sadie Sink, who has been revealed to be playing Jean Grey as part of the X-Men, who was the first person to make her appearance as not as an X-Men, but in that universe, I guess, in Spider-Man, which that's going to be a whole, that we probably need to dedicate an entire segment to that. So we're just going to kind of lightly touch on the other announcements. So we have the rest of our cast that was actually announced. We have, I'll go ahead and start with Maya Boyd, who will be playing Storm. We have Christopher Abbott, who will be playing Professor X. We have, I'm debating which one's I'm going to go Indy Navarrete, who will not be playing Mystique, but instead will be playing Rogue. I'm good with that. Adam Driver, you sly dog, you been saying like, oh yeah, I'm not playing. I get offered roles and then I turn them down, and it's become a thing. Well, he didn't say that. Kevin Feige did. He gets offered roles and then it's like, sounds good, I'm passing. He didn't pass on this one, and I love this casting, but at the same time, I would have loved to have seen him play Magneto instead. I think he would have been an interesting choice for Magneto, but it is what it is. He's going to be playing Mr. Sinister. And I'm really glad that they're going with Mr. Sinister, because I think that is a very interesting character that I look forward to seeing what type of story they tell with him. I have a feeling he's going to start off, well, if you start off with Mr. Sinister before, he looks the way that he does, where most people would probably recognize, his story goes back a long time. So are they going to show what he was like in the, I don't know, maybe 1920s? I forget how far back he goes, but his character is established early on. And when I say the 1900s, I don't mean the 1990s. A long time ago, not 1994. A long time ago, like 1920s, 1919, I don't know, something along those lines. So do they start off with him like that, or do they tell a different story with him? I don't know. I'm looking forward to it either way. Matthias, what's your opinion on the casting?
Man, I think Mr. Sinister is a really inspired choice there, just because in the same vein that sort of Magneto and the Brotherhood are, obvious enemies to the X-Men, so is someone like Mr. Sinister and all that stuff. He's very much like a common fixture in their battles and all that stuff there. And I think he's going to be really interesting because I think not a lot of people really know him outside of like the animated series, I feel. But all throughout, the comic run of the Uncanny X-Men and all that stuff, he's a very, very, very layered character. And especially considering that his origins come all the way from like, I think he was a scientist back in like the 1800s or whatever, trying to sort of
Oh,
find like,
1800s.
yeah, he was, trying to find like the perfect link between creating like the perfect human and all that stuff. So he was very much about trying to sort of unlocking the mutant genome and sort of pairing the two strongest mutants together to create like pretty much like a superhuman person or superhuman mutant. Essentially, was the whole thing. Which, considering that Kit Connor and Sadie Sink were the first two characters to be named essentially in this, which both playing Jean Grey and Cyclops. Jean Grey and Cyclops are pretty much like the main focus of a character like Mr. Sinister and also because he purposely wants them to create, the perfect human, through their pairing and stuff like that. So if that's going to be kind of the story that they kind of want to go with, I think there's a lot of potential there. But I'm very surprised that there's no Magneto. There's no real villains in this yet. So I wonder if they're, at least with the first film, if we're not going to see a Magneto in the Brotherhood.
I think that's a. Go ahead. Sorry.
And I was going to lead with that after. It's like, I don't know how that's a very bold strategy.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton, but
See
to
how
quote Dodgeball. Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Oh man, Jason Bateman, I tell you. I think that it's the right move, personally. I think that to lead off with someone who has that recognizability in Mr. Sinister for not for general audiences, but for X-Men fans in general, he's an interesting enough character to bring in and tell an interesting story to get general audiences who know X-Men by this point to be invested in the story. I think that there's a lot that they could do with that character. And I suspect it won't be an end at part one and be like, well, took care of him. Who's next? No. He's a character that I think that, especially with a talent like Adam Driver, I think that you need to utilize further along. I mean, there's a lot of different places that you can go with it. You can go with the Savage Land eventually if you wanted, which would be an interesting story, but one that I don't think that they would dive into until like, I don't know, 5 years from now, maybe, or not even then, maybe even 10 years from now, who knows? But I think that it also leaves the door open to circling around or creating a media frenzy against, well, who's going to be Magneto? Just like we're wondering for DC, who's going to be Batman? Magneto is a big enough name that it will bring big attention, that I also wonder whoever they eventually get will have to be somebody recognizable. I don't think that you're going to get a brand new actor to come in and play that role. I don't know who they could go with. There's a number of different people off the top of my head, even though he technically was in the MCU already, as Ronan the Accuser. I think Lee Pace would be a great choice to play Magneto. He has the height, he has the intimidation factor, I think. Overall, I could totally see him killing it in that role, and I think you could get away with it. I think that a lot of people wouldn't even know that. I mean, yeah, people that look at the credits and they could be like, hey, wait a minute, he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. Then yeah, sure. But I think it's a small thing enough. And also, I mean, it's still within the MCU. Which brings me to the next point, which is like, man, I'm wondering how they're going to introduce this, because X-Men doesn't come out until May 5th, 2028, which will be obviously a year or so, or 6 months, 6 to 8 months or whatever, after 6 months, I guess, after the events of Secret Wars, which I'm guessing will probably have the Avengers kind of just sitting on the sidelines for a while, and X-Men will be the main focus for a while to establish that team going forward. and maybe give the opportunity to, well, maybe not. I was going to say tell some independent stories for, members of the team of the Avengers, but probably not. I don't know where they're going to go, honestly, after that. So who knows? But I do know that X-Men is going to be up and running, led by Jake Schreier, who I trust wholeheartedly with developing this team, because I really did enjoy Thunderbolts. Had just the right of humor and just the right of serious tones, and really showcased a team coming together. I mean, if you want an indication of how can this guy bring X-Men together, look at how successful he was with bringing a team together that were not even established characters. I mean, realistically, none of them really were huge stars on their own in terms of the movies. Like, they weren't a Thor that had Thor 1, Thor 2, Thor 3, Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2. This was hell. I mean, you had Captain America, who came out in the series, the guy who played Captain America. And by the end of it, I was just like, man, this guy's funny. Like, not just funny, but I mean, he's a good actor, and I was interested in his character. Like, that was one scene that was so brutal, when he's like, I think Yelena is basically saying that, like, I mean, who are we? We're nothing. Like, we're not worth anything. We're not the Avengers. I'm a mess up. He's a screw up. She's this and that, and she's like going down the line, saying like all the things that are wrong with these characters, with the team. And then he's like, oh, right. So I guess it's my turn next, huh? And then she's like, no, I don't need to tell you how much of a loser he is. Your wife already left you, or something like that. His reaction was just like, Jesus. But the comedic timing, it was such a brutal thing to say, but his reaction to it was just perfectly timed. And not to mention, just, it got me to, basically, the point I'm trying to make is that it got me to care about a character that I cared nothing about prior to Thunderbolts. And I was invested. Sentry as well. All of them. I want to see what happens next. So you give him a team of superheroes, the X-Men. The reason I probably loved, animated or just comics and things like that growing up was because of the X-Men animated series. And you hand it to them, and he now has characters that are already very well known and established, and you're just bringing them together. I think he can do it. I think he's going to do it well. But that's just me. That's just the opinion of some guy who has a podcast, just like, I don't know, everybody else out there. But if you did like the show, like I always say, share it with a friend. And that said, all right, folks, our time is up. But as always, we do want to thank you all for listening to us, whether it be on your day off or your commute to work. We appreciate you taking the time to hit download or push play on your device. We also want to remind you, if you're not already, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Second Way to Kill a Werewolf, where we encourage you to share your thoughts and opinions on the many, many posts that we put up. And as I just mentioned preemptively, if you enjoyed the show, be sure to stick around for the next one. Subscribe, because we drop these episodes weekly. Eventually, maybe we might start putting out a couple more episodes a week, kind of looking into that. More to come on that later on. But for now, for sure, you can count on a weekly drop with our... also, we like to change things up a little bit, throw in a movie review as well, every now and again. So once a month, actually. So you can always look forward to that if you decide to subscribe. Maybe you're not into movie news, but maybe you like movie reviews. Something to think about. Spoiler alert, our next movie review is going to be Jurassic Park. So if you're a fan of that and the 90s, definitely want to subscribe so you don't miss that episode. That said, I'm Damien.
And I'm Matthias.
And we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.